Good morning. This is Dr. McDaniel at GYN Corner. Today is Wednesday, June 26, 2019, and I'm still traveling, still in Venice. I will be leaving on the train again later this morning, and I'll be returning to London. I'm taping still because the internet access is horrible, so I can't do any Facebook Lives. It's pretty sucky because I can't even load the videos that I'm doing because the internet access is so horrible. I've been trying to load the videos and it's not even working to load the videos, so it's pretty sad. But what can you do? I'm making do. So we're leaving Venice today and taking the train back up to London. We'll be in London tomorrow afternoon, so hopefully I'll be able to load the videos. I couldn't load them at all on the train. I don't have any internet access, and I didn't mention it, but I'm here in Europe without my family. I'm married. I have 4 kids. I'm here in Europe without my family, my husband, or my children because I'm celebrating my mother's 70th birthday this year, so I'm treating her to this trip. We're taking the Orient Express train. We took the Orient Express from London down to here to Venice, and then we're doing the return from Venice to London on the Orient Express, and we spent a few days in London before we boarded the train. We're here in Venice for 2 days, and we'll spend a few more days in London before we take the flight back to the States. So she's 70 this year, and I want to do something really special for her. My dad passed away 5 years ago, and I want to do something special for her. I would have just sent the 2 of them had he still been around, but unfortunately he's not. So I brought her myself, and we're having a nice time, except for the fact that I was injured coming in. I fell in the gap on the subway, the tube station, trying to transfer luggage. I wasn't looking. I grabbed some luggage. I turned around and I moved my foot. There was about a foot wide, actually it was about 8 inches wide gap. And then the platform was about a foot higher, which makes no sense. Maybe not a foot, maybe about 6 inches higher than the train floor for the tube, so it was bizarre. But I fell in the gap. I injured my left leg and my left arm, so I can't raise this arm. I can't walk very well, so I've been in pain the whole time we've been here in Europe, but I'm still trying to make the best of it, enjoy it, because it's really a once in a lifetime. It's not going to happen again, and just trying to make the best of it. So anyways, for the whole duration of the trip, I've been speaking about cervical cancer prevention, ways to prevent it, and vaccines. The first level of defense after that is the Pap Smear, which is ultimately the best level of defense because the Pap Smear allows us to be able to scoop people out of pretty much a danger zone, to pluck them out when they are developing irregular or precancerous changes, and to identify them, treat, manage, monitor, bring them back down to normal. And I mentioned yesterday that I would discuss how the Pap Smear works, the grading and everything. So everyone starts off with a normal cervix, and then if they get infected with the HPV or the human papillomavirus, that virus, its whole raison d'etre, its whole reason for being, is to make normal cells turn into cancer cells. But for the cervix, there's a transitional time frame, or a bridge, or a transformation time frame. So the cervical cells go from normal to precancerous, irregular, abnormal, and then to cancerous. And when they go from normal to precancerous, there's 2 levels of precancerous. Now, I mentioned previously that we used to use the CIN. And the CIN was broken into 3 levels. It was broken into CIN 1, 2, and 3. And that stood for cervical intraepithelial neoplasia. So abnormal precancerous changes of the cervix is broken into 3 levels. So early, moderate, and severe. And then after severe is cancer. Around 1996, 97, the nomenclature, the naming protocol was changed. So we abandoned the CIN, and SIL, or squamous intraepithelial lesion, was then adopted. And that was to make it easier to compare the Pap reports to the biopsy reports, because the biopsy reports were the CIN and the Pap reports were SIL. And now with the change in the nomenclature, it's easy to see if they're both the same SIL or not. Now the SIL does not have 3 levels, it has 2 levels. So technically, as far as the cytopathologists are supposed to be concerned, there's no such thing as moderate precancer. You either have early or you have late. You have mild or you have severe. There is not an in-between as far as cervical precancerous changes go. So because of that, the transition between the CIN and the SIL was a little bit difficult, because everyone was used to having moderate or intermediate dysplastic changes, doing a little panorama of ambiance. So the nomenclature was changed and everyone adopted that transition of SIL for the Pap and for biopsies. Now, when someone has precancerous changes due to HPV, predominantly what occurs, let me backtrack. So the cervix is divided into 2 halves. It's divided into the outer cervical cells, which we call the ectocervix, and the inner cervical cells, which we call the endocervix. And for whatever reason, God only knows, for whatever reasons, when someone develops precancerous changes, those changes predominantly occur from the outside of the cervix. So they start on the ectocervix and then they slowly transition or morph and creep up into the endocervix. So we know that in general, for someone to go from normal to severe precancer, it takes about 2 to 3 years. Now, for different strains of HPV, it can take even longer. It can take 7 to 8 or even 10 to 12 years. But for the main 14, what we consider the high-risk strains of HPV, it takes about 2 to 3 years on average to go from normal to severe precancer. Sorry, it's breakfast time. I'm trying to drink this tea because I'm going to have to run and catch our train pretty soon. So, unfortunately, however, if someone has cervical precancerous changes that start in the endocervix, so the inner cells of the cervix, those cervical cells are more aggressive than the outer cervical cells. So changes that could take the outer cervical cells 2 to 3 years could take, if they start on the inner cervical cells, they could take less than a year to go from normal to severe precancer and ultimately cancer if left uninterrupted. So when we get a Pap report back, it will either come in one of 3 scenarios. It will come back normal, abnormal, or basically looks weird, we don't know what's going on. So technically we call it negative, which is normal, positive, which is abnormal, and atypical squamous cells of undetermined significance, or atypical glandular cells of undetermined significance. I'm going to stop there because it's been almost 10 minutes. So that's the intro for the Pap, and I'm going to give additional information, more details, continue this talk about Pap smear screening, what does it mean, tomorrow. That should be from the train tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes, because I'll have to do it when there's a break, because the last time I tried to, when we were coming down, I tried to do a talk on the train, and the noise of the train or something, the vibrations made it horrible, so I had to retape it when we were at a rest stop for reloading supplies. But we'll see. Tomorrow we'll be leaving Italy and going through Switzerland, up through France, and then finally to London. So last time we had a break in Switzerland, so we'll see if we have another one tomorrow, and I'll try to tape during a break, hopefully tomorrow morning. I hope everyone's enjoyed this intro on Pap Smear screening, Papa Nicolau screening, cervical cancer screening. What does it mean? This is Dr. McDaniel at GYN Corner, and I'll do a panorama before I leave. Please check out the YouTube channel. That's also called GYN Corner on YouTube. And if you're in the area, you can come to the office. We're in Midtown GYN. We have a website, midtowngyn.com. We're in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you.